So without further ado, Larraine, and it's Segil, right? Even though here in the US, they spell it a little different. Larraine Segil, and she'll describe herself, because I'm not going to do it justice, because this is a woman who has done amazing things. You have to check out her Wikipedia. She's done everything. And I thought I was a hard worker, and I think people, I'm nothing compared to what you're doing. It's crazy. So it sounds like I'm just sleepwalking. And this is happy at work. It's all about positivity in the workplace, making employees happier, and then speaking to fantastic guests like Larraine, who can kind of share their perspective and their journey along the way. So maybe without further, just me going on, you could just say who you are, what you do, and we'll dive into everything.
Oh, thank you so much, Jack. And I'm so happy to be with you and Michael and Laura. Thank you all for inviting me to be here. It's an interesting challenge. What is happiness? And in fact, that is the metric that in our foundation we measure for. When we bring in women awardees and we have leaders from all over North America, we ask them, what will it take to make them happy? And that's a holistic question, really, because as women, we are mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, colleagues, professional. And so for all those reasons, it became my mission in life when I sold my last business. And I am a serial entrepreneur who started as a lawyer and failed as a lawyer, jumping ship into entrepreneurship. When I sold my last business, I decided I wanted to take whatever I'd made and pay it forward to those who I think walked the road less traveled as I had. And I never had a mentor. So that was my mission in life. And to go back to the beginning, I started life as a barrister in training in South Africa, which is where I come from. And when I immigrated here, went back into law and did the JD and did the bar and worked for a judge for a bit and then for a large law firm. And frankly, I hated it. It was just not for me. So it was good that I lived in this incredible country of the United States where there are so many options, and I jumped ship and became an entrepreneur. I had a bunch of failures, which I guess is part of the game if you're in entrepreneurship, and then fortunately some successes. Built a small healthcare company and sold it, became CEO of an advanced materials company and sold it, and had the privilege of teaching executive education at Caltech in California for 24 years and building the leading consultancy in strategic partnering. So that led me to do research at Caltech, write 5 business books, 1 novel, 2, which were published, and took me into a merger with a fabulous firm out of Boston that had written a book. Michael, I know you teach at Harvard. They wrote a book out of the project on negotiation called Getting to Yes. You may well have heard of that book.
I teach it.
And, okay, there you go. Well, Vantage Partners is my former firm, and marvelous partners I had there, and we merged our strategic alliances consulting firm into Vantage. And then a number of years later, when our only child and his wife were going to have the first grandbaby, I said, I am out of here. And was very, very happy to sell out to Vantage. And then that's when my philanthropic world started, and I created endowments at my high school in South Africa for young ladies from 9th to 12th grade, and at my law school and business school in California. And from that evolved a nonprofit called the Exceptional Women Awardees Foundation. And that's basically what I run now, in addition to being on one board, which is public, and one board, which is nonprofit. That's it.
That's it. That's enough. That's a lot. That's amazing.
Larraine, that's great. I'm just going to hop in with the first question because I'm just so anxious to hear it. For where you are right now, what is your life's purpose? What gives you meaning?
Thank you for that marvelous question. I live my life's purpose every single day. The Exceptional Women Awardees Foundation is a happiness machine, to go back to an industrial term, but it is truly generating happiness for me and for the women who are part of it every moment of every day. That is our mission. That's what we wish to enable our EWAs, as we call them, to do, is to reach their dreams. And so I'm fortunate to be the guide of dream catching, and it's an amazing place to be. I'm truly, truly blessed at this point in my life to be happier than I've ever been.
That's excellent. Thank you. I know Laura is just like,
Yeah.
next.
I know.
Yeah.
So excited, Larraine. This is amazing. I was just thrilled to read about your career and all of the different kinds of things that you've done in your career. I mean, you mentioned some of them, but there's way more that I read about of the different things that you've done. And I'm just curious, and kind of taking a meta view of your career, what do you think it is about your mindset or the way you kind of think about the world that had you so kind of open to all these different experiences and to have all of these really cool successes? I'm just curious, like, how do you think, I just love for you to share about your mindset along the way.
Well, you know, growing up in South Africa, I was growing up in a very privileged environment, unfortunately with the backdrop of apartheid. But not only was there black-white apartheid, but there was also anti-woman feeling in terms of what women could achieve. So you may be amazed to know when I got married, we had to have a prenuptial contract in order to exclude the marital power of the husband over the wife, because the wife, when I got married 53 years ago, did not have contracting power. She was not a person without her husband's signature. So in order to contract out of that common law status, you needed to have a prenuptial agreement. So, you know, that was where it was many years ago, obviously very different now in every way. But, you know, when I went to law school in Johannesburg, there were very few women at the bar practicing law, and even fewer in my law school class, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, but certainly not a lot out of 180. And so it was a very different environment. So you either pushed forward with great enthusiasm, or you went along with the norm. And I was not a normative kind of person. So I'm sort of a red flag to the bull kind of person. So off I went into my own world of pushing forward into places where women had never tread, or few of them had ever tread. And coming to the US was like a kid in a candy store, because the opportunities here, even though there are many who feel we don't have enough, I tell you, it's better than any other country I've lived in or been to in the world. And so I'm enormously grateful to be a US citizen and to have the privilege of living in this country. And I still feel like it's a kid in a candy store. There are certainly wrongs that have to be righted, but there's the opportunity. There's somebody dog coming into the podcast. I love that.
That's my puppy that makes me happy. She's just a little loud.
Yeah.
Okay, we have that problem too. My dog hopefully won't come and sit outside. But anyway, so that's what it's all about, is pushing with a belief that you can do whatever you set your mind to, and that you get further with honey than you do with poison. And so my focus has always been to be as charming as possible, but firm. And I would say also to discover what it is that I enjoy doing. And I'm so blessed to be at that point in my life where I can do only what I enjoy.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've heard some people say before that sometimes the people who have struggles, or at least, you know, they're exposed to hardships early in their lives, are the ones who kind of see the opportunities in front of them in a different light, right? And it sounds like what you kind of described. So that's amazing.
I think that's a brilliant statement, Laura. That is right on, which is I know why you do what you do, because you just got it on the head. That's exactly right. And I think that I see that all around me when I hear the stories of our incredible leaders in our foundation and what some of them have gone through in their lives. Is just, it is incomprehensible that they are at the leadership position that they are now, when you think about what they went through. And I'm talking about anything from incest and rape to extreme poverty to incredible abuse, both spousal and child. I mean, not to say that everybody's like that, but there are many individuals who have gone through terrible trauma and loss of a parent very early, all kinds of other things. And they've come through it with the belief that they have the strength and the opportunity to do what they need to do, and they do it. Amazing.
Larraine, just to frame it a little bit more, can you because you kind of launched into it, but can you tell the listeners and people watching it a little bit more about the whole ethos, the whole idea behind the awards?
Sure, happy to do that. I took a lot of the intellectual property I designed in the area of strategic partnering and applied it to a peer-to-peer network of women leaders. And I chose women leaders as opposed to male leaders because that was where the need appeared to be. But I do believe that you can't applaud with one hand. You have to applaud with both hands. And in order for women to be successful in the workplace, or anywhere for that matter, they have to have men as allies. And in order for men to be successful in the workplace, they have to have women as allies. So it really is a collaborative exercise for all of us to work together in a better, more positive way. So I started with the women. And in fact, we have a program which is in beta at the moment for exceptional male awardees, where they would be partnered with a female mentor. But we shelved that for the COVID period because, frankly, people are just struggling to get through what they're trying to get through at the moment, and trying to zap another program into an organization. This is not the time. So to go back to our women awardees, we look for exceptional women who walk the road less traveled. They have to have reached a certain level of success because, like Marshall Goldsmith, who also serves on our advisory board, he's the #1 coach in the world today. If you didn't know of him, quite a spectacular gentleman. He always says that his mission, and it is ours too, is to make very successful people more successful. And that's really what we want to do. So we look for high-level women. There are many organizations helping women in high school, young women, women early parts of their career. Our niche is high-level women. And we know that the pyramid at the top of the organization is very narrow, and many women don't get to that top spot. We want to mentor them, support them, enable them to make sure that if they are near the top, we get them to the top. In addition, we want to enable women who are already at C-level to find their next purpose in life, because I found when I left my P&L, it was a bit discombobulating. You know, I was left without an identity. I left my friends behind. I left my community behind, because all I had done was work and run that P&L or been involved in a partnership. So I don't want any other C-level woman to have that same feeling. So we have provided a sisterhood of purpose where each woman who comes in will have the opportunity to mentor another peer when she comes in, and the cycle of giving continues. So, you know, we're at 84 women. By the end of this year, we'll be at 100. And the goal is not to grow hugely, but to grow slowly, and to make sure that our women are engaged. And we truly are achieving this mission. We will be putting out a semi-annual report in the next few weeks, which shows the numbers of women who have become CEOs, who have moved up in their organizations, who have gone on public boards or private boards. And it's just spectacular and heartwarming.
Larraine,
Fantastic.
This is amazing. And I can relate to you on your journey when you sold a business, and, you know, it's depressing and lonely, and what's next, and do I matter anymore? And I thought I was lucky by retiring at 36, and it was the worst decision I ever made. I was never more unhappy, which is why I've gone into the well-being space to figure this out. I personally think that retirement should be removed from our vocabulary. I think humans should always keep moving forward on some level. But I'm curious about the women that you're helping, and I love the fact that you're seeing their strengths and trying to make these gems even shinier gems. What are you seeing now that these women are needing, and how are you helping them fulfill that need? What are they needing right now that you're seeing?
Well, one of the biggest needs is something that is generally unstated, and that is to have a confidential group of like-minded, not by like-minded doesn't mean they think the same way, it means that they are senior and ambitious peers with whom you can share anything, literally anything. And that is one of the unique characteristics of our organization. So whether it's an HR problem, that they might have, we will convene what we call our little SWAT team, where we will bring a couple of chief people officers around the person, surround them and talk to them, help them through it. All confidential, all free of charge. It's something that the sisterhood does for each other. One of our other women was offered a position through an executive search firm. We brought in 2 or 3 of our executive search leaders and a couple of CEOs and board members and surrounded her and helped her with the negotiation of a C-level role, which she moved into very successfully. Another woman was the president of her company. The CEO passed away suddenly. She was asked to immediately become the interim CEO, and we convened a group of board governance experts, CHROs, CFOs, and others, and said, no, interim is not the title that you will take, because you're already operating as the CEO. And we helped her negotiate and move into a very stressful, very difficult situation. So, you know, we are there, and whatever the need is, it's hard to specify, but I can say generically, it's basically a peer group that can give you insight and input without any hidden agendas. And that is not easy to find.
Thank you. We do that in our entrepreneurship class at Harvard, where we create mastermind groups, and they're sort of similar. It's all about giving, and you don't expect anything in return. You just have to explain what your situation is, whether it's personal or professional, and usually they combine. And then people will convene with you out of the room. That's one of our little special sauce, because we find that the participant brings in some self-limiting beliefs and says, oh, I've tried that. And we find if they're out of the room, we can leapfrog over those and come into a solution where they'd never thought of it. And we love to have people from different walks of life that have different perspectives. So I see why it's working well for you.
I love that, Michael. And you might be interested to know, all of you, Laura, you in particular, that when we are screening candidates to come in, we have the success level screenings and all of those which you would expect. But then in the admissions interview, we have very different criteria. We are screening for kindness, for a spirit of generosity and generosity of spirit. We're screening for transparency. We want women who are willing to be transparent so that we can help you. If you can't be transparent, we can't help you. We want women who exhibit gratitude, because by the time you get to a C-level role, you should have a healthy dose of gratitude. And women who are willing to share their networks with each other. There's no internal competition permitted in our group. And finally, women who ultimately, when their careers and time permit, will become a peer mentor to another EWA woman coming in. So those are the screens that we put over the interview, and therefore we have a very special culture within our organization.
Amazing, amazing.
Can I do that for guys? I feel like I'm missing out. I want that. Seriously.
Well, you wouldn't be. You
Yeah.
wouldn't be. Just give us a year or so, and as
Is
soon
that
as we get to endemic status with this awful disease,
Yeah.
we will probably launch our co-ed program.
Okay, Mike and I'll speak for Mike, but we'll both join, because hearing that, there's so often, especially when you're working remotely, you feel isolated. You feel like you're not sure what's going on. And it's interesting. I have more friends now, like from being online, because I've been very careful during the pandemic. But so you kind of feel like you need that social network to help you out. You know, you want someone to bounce questions off of. You want to get the feedback. You want to say, sometimes you want to hear the bad stuff where they say, Jack, what you're doing is really dumb. Stop it. Don't do this instead. You kind of need that. So I'm going to sign up when you're going to do that.
Okay, you're in.
And Larraine, if you ever open up something for younger people, I find that they're so receptive to the things that you're talking about and teaching. And I love investing in them, because I feel like I'm planting a seed that's going to grow for another 50 years. When they learn some of the strategies that you're teaching, especially about well-being and positive psychology, it's very simple to understand. And if they can be equipped with that toolkit in their early 20s, I just think they can really create magic and really change the world, because they're going to be the world after we're gone. And I think they're a wonderful investment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Michael. And I've been an adjunct professor at a law school and also at a conflict resolution center at another university. And I did do that for a number of years before the pandemic. And then I just decided teaching remotely was not going to be for me. So for the moment,
you hit a
I've
nerve with
taken
Mike.
this.
That's, yeah, it's not easy,
Yeah.
right? It's not.
Yeah, but there were, you know, literally hundreds of students in that genre that you describe. And yes, they're in tabula rasa, as you say, an open tablet of learning opportunity, no doubt.
Larraine, I wanted to double click into something you said earlier. You were talking about this idea of being kind, but also being firm. You were talking about the one hand can't clap kind of idea, right? Men and women together. I'm so curious about how, with your exceptional women, this group that you have, how do you talk about kind of playing the game of kind of being in a men's world when you're in a leadership position versus trying to create a new game? It's such a hard thing to navigate, I feel like. And so I'm just curious, how do you talk about that? Because I think there's sometimes some real struggles if you are trying to play the existing game.
Well, I wish you had listened to or participated in our show yesterday. We also have a show that's called the EWA LinkedIn Live, and we had two of our EWA women on it who are spectacular, as all of them are. One is Rachel Barger, and she is the Senior Vice President for Global Enterprise for Cisco and one of the most senior women at Cisco. She was formerly the president of SAP in Asia and worked for Ariba before. And what she said was very interesting. She said the moment when her career took off, she's an engineer, was when she realized she didn't have to be one of the guys and that she could be herself. And of course, the well-used term now is authentic self, that she really became who she was. And that's when her career took off. And with her on the show was Diana Hoff, who is a petroleum engineer, senior vice president at Antero Resources. And she was the only woman anywhere in sight on an oil rig as the foreman of an oil rig for a number of years. So, you know, she wasn't one of the guys. Obviously, they didn't treat her as one of the guys, but she was definitely a peer. She has an incredible sense of humor, makes everybody laugh all the time. And she uses humor in her leadership roles to make people relax around her, because she's such an unusual personage to find on an oil rig or anywhere to do with petroleum and oil drilling for that matter. So for both of them, they have found their way to be themselves, to be who they are, and to be accepted like that. So do they play the game? They do play the game, because you have to play the game, and it's really not so much the man-women game, it's the politics game in the corporate world. And as I'm sure all of you and the audio audience also know, there are games to be played there. And much as we don't like them, and I don't particularly permit them within the organizations that I'm part of, if I have any say on it, it's there and you have to play it. And many women don't know how to do that. So we help them with that, because you need a couple of minds around you to say, you know, this is the play that's going on right now. These are some strategies you can use to counter or deal with that. And so, yes, you have to play the game that's being played around you, but you also have to be your authentic self.
Right. That's awesome. Thank you.
Larraine, I'm going to ask you a fun visionary question. So this is like playtime. So
Okay.
imagine that you have impacted so many more women than you have on your roster right now, that you've had this huge spread and everything has worked out. How will you change the workplace with what you're trying to do? Imagine it was all successful. How will the world and the workplace change based on the work that you're doing?
You know, our mission is changing lives, one woman at a time. And we also expand that to saying changing lives, changing workplaces, changing communities, one woman at a time. So our mission and our vision would be that there is accepted equality in the workplace, where you are judged for your competency, not for your gender or the color of your skin or the place you went to school. because there's a lot of that too, or even where you were born. So that's really what we're aiming towards, and that is being judged on your competency and how you perform, because that's really what should count in the corporate world, and it should count in life in general. I would say that we're inching towards that. It's a very, very big goal. And, you know, we're just going to keep on doing it one woman at a time, because our women run GDP in significant portions in a variety of industries. And so if they do believe that, and they do, they can really make change happen within their organizations. So that's the goal.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Hey, Larraine, I want to kind of go back to what you mentioned a little early in the conversation about failure. And I greatly respect the fact that you mentioned on several occasions that you failed at things. And I think for the audience, that's nice for them to hear, because as you know, most people don't like to talk about their failures. They gloss over it, they hide it, they want to ignore it, but you seem to embrace it. And is there something maybe you could tell people who are going through, and a lot of people on LinkedIn in particular, they're looking for new jobs, maybe they were laid off, or maybe something's going on with their company, or they just want to pivot or reinvent themselves, or they're just hitting their head against the wall. What would you say to people who are going through failure so that they could keep pursuing and moving forward and not drag them down?
You know, one of the aspects of the intellectual property that I've integrated into this program, and it's a proprietary metrics-driven program which we've codified on our website, and each one of the women has to go through it, supported by a dedicated mentor who actually helps her through it and meets with her twice a month. One of the issues that we talk about is affirmation. And, you know, you may say, well, that's kind of woo-woo magic stuff. No, it's not really.
No, I believe in that.
Yeah, the Olympics that are happening right now are an absolutely classic example. If you watch those downhill slalom skiers that I was watching last night, which was amazing, the speed they go in, as they're about to get ready, they are beginning to go through that downhill in their minds. They're laying down, and Laura, this is your area, they're laying down neural pathways of behavior, of action, of body reaction. There's no time to think when you're going at 60 miles an hour. So, or whatever the speed is, it sure looks like 60. They're laying it down before, and every single athlete does that. That's what we do with our ladies. We ask them to lay down neural pathways of positive outcomes. So if you're going through a failure situation and you're constantly saying, I'm such a failure, I'm such a failure, your subconscious is saying, yep, okay, let's act according to that belief system. You have to start saying things as if they've already happened, such as, I have dealt with this situation in a positive way and have found my place in the world. And say it, I always tell everybody, say it every time you go to the bathroom, which depending on your age could be between 1 and 10 times a day. That's when you say your affirmation, and you say it as if it has already happened. And it does start to build up a positive feeling, which then gets those endorphins moving, and it becomes more of a physiological reaction than just a psychological reaction. And it all lives together. So hard to do, but if you are surrounded with supportive people, they can help you remember that this too will pass.
I love that, Larraine, and it does work because I've tried it and there's evidence behind it. And I'm curious, one of the things that I learned at Penn when I was studying positive psych is it's really fun to create these positive interventions or the exercises that you do for people. And I've found in my experience that when someone's having a challenge with that, when they are down and they need to keep that, positive mindset, I find that mentoring other people that need help is a really great boost out. And I'm curious if you ask your women to mentor other people when they are on your platform.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole purpose of our organization, is a peer-to-peer network. It's mentoring. As soon as you come into the program, even before some women have gone through the 12 months of the program and then become alumni, they become mentors. If they want to, if they're ready, and if their career permits them, they're there. So yes, it helps tremendously. And look, it's, there's an amazing program. Of course, we're all familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous, where, the sponsors for incoming AA members are alcoholics themselves, and they help others to deal with their addictions. So, you know, there's good evidence in many different areas of life that this actually works. And in ours, we don't bring people in who are damaged necessarily, but as soon as they come in and can pay it forward, it makes them feel so happy and so generous and so gratified. So it's really you as a mentor learn as much as the mentee does. And because it's peer-to-peer, it's even more so.
And I heard you had a really interesting acronym for mentor. Could you share that with us?
Which one was that?
Christine had mentioned it. Christine, do you remember? I think there was an acronym that was involved with mentor.
Mapping, evaluation,
Oh, that, yes.
Yeah.
No, basically what we do is we use a lot of the business tools that that you use in business opportunity analysis, to look at life opportunity analysis, to apply to our ladies on really doing a self-analysis of what is it that makes them happy, what makes them sad, where their negatives are, what would our plan be to obviate those negatives. So it's quite an in-depth discussion between them and their mentors, and also the ability to go through a very structured process that enables them to come out with maybe some ahas. For example, who are the people who are important in their lives? One of our women, who I happen to be her mentor, I think she had 23 people who were number one priority in her life. And I said to her, no wonder you feel overwhelmed. I mean, there is no way that you can have 23 people who are the first priority in your life. You know, you got to start carving out some time for yourself and have people take care of themselves a little bit more than you take care of them. So, you know, sometimes it's as obvious as that, sometimes a little less so.
So Larraine, I have a question for you. You have so many cool things that you've done, but I'm sure along the way, there have been some things that have been really hard. We've talked a little bit about the what you call failures that you've had, but curious about what are some of your personal strategies when you're stressed, when you're all feeling maybe overwhelmed with things. What are some things that you do to kind of get yourself through those hard times?
Well, I must admit, exercise is an enormous endorphin pumper, and that's what I need when I'm feeling low. I go and swim, and I put on my this little pump here for Audible. I love listening to books on tape, because there are actors that are actually voicing them.
Mhm.
So I put my MP3 players, which are waterproof, in my ears, and I get in the pool and I do aerobics in the pool. And it just makes me feel happy. So that is, you know, you have to get some physiological help when you feel down, because it's very hard to get out of that cycle. That's one way. Then I also do count my blessings, and I verbalize how very blessed I am on so many levels. And that makes me remember that I'm very well off.
That's awesome. Love it.
Larraine,
So Laura, you
great. I started, I used to have panic attacks after I retired because I had nothing to do, and swimming butterfly got rid of it. Just again, like you're saying, like the endorphin rush and just being able to fly around. I loved it. Have you ever considered jumping into cold water? That will flip fast.
I have not only considered it, I've done it, because we didn't used to heat our pool, and it was about 53 degrees in the winter. And I must tell you, I did it once, Michael, and I never do it again. This is not my way of helping myself. No, I was cursing like a sailor. I can tell you, it was not a lot of fun.
It gets you off whatever you were thinking about, because you're just really focused on surviving.
Yeah, you know, my grandmother used to say, if you want to forget your troubles, wear tight shoes.
Wow.
I love that. I love that.
All you can think about is your feet.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I want to be conscious of your time. Any last minute things, anything we haven't asked you that you feel you'd like to share before we head out?
I'm just so happy to have been on your podcast. I think what you're doing is fabulous. And Michael, I think your focus area is just so needed in this world today. And Laura, you have skills that I'm sure in such demand, you could rent yourself out as an empathy leader on an ongoing basis. And Jack, thank you for creating this podcast.
Our pleasure.
Experience.
Our pleasure. Hey,
Lorraine,
can I,
last one, if I could just squeeze it in for my undergraduate females who are from 135 different countries.
Wow.
It's COVID. They're not with their families. They're not with their friends. They're not with their pets. Self-esteem, social media comparison. They have a lot that brings them down. As someone who has been an international person coming to the United States and done very well, what kind of hope can you give them when they're just 19 years old and just having a bad day? What could you do to help them? Just a message.
Well, you know, I'm very into animals. I actually live on an urban farm and we have lots of different animals here. So, you know, if there's anywhere you can go to a shelter and volunteer a little bit and bring some of that love that you have in your heart to an animal, it's going to make you feel an awful lot better. And I would say to work with, to at least find a buddy. One buddy would be even sufficient to just get out. I know the weather is miserable at the moment, but go to a gym, walk around, move your body. Sitting in front of a computer screen is just about the worst thing you can do. And so you've got to get out, move, or find an animal. Those were the two things that I found helped me out.
agree. Larry, we have 2 dogs and 2 cats for that reason. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's really important. Thank you so much.
I have a
really
cow,
great.
I have goats. I've got a cow, I've got goats, I've got fish, and I've got a wonderful dog. So, yeah.
So wait, if you don't mind me asking, where do you live that you have that, a goat and a cow?
I live in Los Angeles, but we have an urban farm. So I make all my own cheese and jams.
Of course you do.
How do you have the time to do all that?
I love it.
I feel so lazy now. This is terrible.
It's too much fun, you know, when you've got a Jersey cow in your backyard and that incredible milk comes, a gallon of milk and this much cream. What you going to do with it? So it's a lot of it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Lorraine, this has been great. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
This was
today.
fantastic.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad that you came on, and I'm so happy we met you. And for everybody who was watching this, what we could do too, if you like, later on, you could share the link. So for people who may want to be to be mentored or be a mentoree or somehow get involved with your organization, maybe you could share with us, and then we'll share it with people who, if you like, who are very interested, because I think it's a great cause.
To donate too, because we are all volunteers.
Yeah.
None of us get paid. So if they want to donate, that would be wonderful as well.
Okay. I will put out. Well, you know what? We'll put whatever you can give us the where to go to and what to do when we upload it. Because what we do is we'll edit it and clean it up, and then we'll upload it, and then we'll put all that contact information. So yeah. So that'd be great.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much.
I'll put my email address in here, Larraine, for you. I love generosity and sharing. So if there's anything you think I could help with, I'm happy to stay in touch. And I think you're doing great stuff.
And you know what? If there's if you need me to do a Zoom executive in residence kind of thing for your class, I'm more than happy to do that. I do that for a number of universities. So
it's fun.
It helps.
I'm gonna say yes, because they do need you. Yeah, they do. They really need someone to look up to, and I think you'd be amazing. So yes.
Thank you. And I can always bring a couple of my ladies with me for another occasion as well. So you just let me know what will be helpful to you.
Excellent.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Larraine.
Excellent. Well, great. This was wonderful. I'm so glad you joined us. That's fantastic. And we'll definitely keep in touch. And, maybe what we could do is, down the road, we can kind of regroup and see what you're doing next. Because I got a sense this could be a lot of things. And then down the road, even more, Mike and I are going to be like the initial members of the new thing that you're going to set up.
The co-ed.
Yes, the co-ed one. Okay.
Co-ed with kids. Yeah, we're happy to help.
All right.
Right.
And you know what?
So
Laura can become one of our mentors. How's that?
There you go. Absolutely.
I'm all over it.
I'm all over it.
Thanks, God. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Larraine. That was awesome.